there, sports fans. I'm Bob Robertson. The Tacoma sports scene is a look at Tacoma's sporting past, present, and future. We will look at some of the players and some of the facilities, the excitement, the games of the past, present, and future, and talk all about the world of sports as it pertains to the city of Tacoma and Pierce County and the Puget Sound area. I'd like you to meet some of the folks who are going to be with us on the Tacoma sports scene. First of all, Alan Hinton, who is the president and general manager of the Seattle Sounders, a team that plays many of its games in Tacoma. Alan, welcome. Good to have you here.
Well, thanks for having us, Bob. It's nice to be here.
And next to Alan Hinton is Ron Zolo. He is the assistant general manager of the Tacoma Tigers baseball team, which has been around under one name or another for a long, long time. And Ron's been here almost that long, haven't you, Ron?
Almost forever, Bob.
Almost forever. Thank you. So a couple of folks that you probably know, old friends, I guess, from the world of sports and guys that can talk about what's going on. Alan, first of all, soccer. This summer, of course, the World Cup has come to the United States. Has it kind of boomed the interest in the game of soccer for you and for the Puget Sound area?
I think it's a great thrill for me. Obviously, I'm an Englishman, and I came over here in 1977 to help make soccer work professionally and in every other way. And I think the World Cup has given us all a lump of sugar, if you like, a reward for hard work over the past few years. And of course, on top of that, we are bringing back the Seattle Sounders this year, and we've already got some wins under our belt, and we're absolutely delighted that we've got local players, a great local ownership, and a great fan base here in the Northwest for professional soccer.
Well, while soccer, Alan Hinton's sport had a kind of a break in its professional interest in the Tacoma area for some years. It's not the case with baseball. The Tacoma Baseball Club, starting as the Giants back in 1960, Ron Zolo, have been here for a long time now, 35 years, I think. How is interest this year? Is it continuing to be high? Is it coming up?
Well, at this point, Bob, our attendance is ahead of last year, and of course the last 2 years we've had attendance records, so we've really had a great start. Obviously the weather has a lot to do with it, but we seem to be growing, which is good because we've always done well anyway, but looks like we're on our way to our third straight all-time attendance record.
It must be a comfortable feeling out there at Cheney Stadium.
Well, it's certainly good to be heading in that direction or the other direction, obviously.
Alan, soccer did take off very well in the Seattle area. The old Tacoma Tides were here in Tacoma, and then, of course, the Stars were here as an indoor team, very successful for a time. And you've kind of been through all of those eras, the Vancouver Whitecaps, of course, as well. But what happened to soccer back in those years, and why is it now coming back?
Well, first of all, you know, you were a part of the Seattle Sounders as the television broadcast guy, and I enjoyed very much working with you, Bob. But over the 10-year period the Sounders were in business before, from 1974 through 1983, the average attendance over that 10-year period was 19,000 people per game, would you believe? So the interest is here. What's more significant is that all those kids who used to come to watch the Sounders and the Stars play are now working adults that have their own money, who understand the game, and we feel all those people will come to watch the professional soccer team now, plus the fact that the American young player is now a player. For instance, when I first came here at the end of 1979, you knew we used to screw up around for 2 or 3 draft choices from the colleges, and we struggled badly, quite frankly. We were lucky in as much as we found Peterson and Stark and Jimmy McAllister and Chance Fry and Brian Smetzer and all that kind of stuff. But so in those years we could find 2 or 3 a year if we were lucky. The game's progressed so much in the state of Washington that we could probably find 60 or 70 players now locally that have the potential to be professional soccer players. That's how far the game's come in the last 10, 15 years or so. So for me, the future is professional soccer, and I think the World Cup will push it on even further and faster. So we're very hopeful this time around.
Ron Zolo, when you talk about young players getting better, we look at the youngsters that are playing for the Tacoma Tigers right now. Bigger, stronger, faster than they used to be. Is baseball getting better as well, or was baseball to the point where perhaps it had plateaued and it just kind of holds the line?
To me, it's very difficult, Bob. I guess being in the game so long, I almost think 10 years ago our players were better, but probably realistically not so. The players are bigger and stronger. It's really a very difficult question. I don't know quite how to answer it. I don't think it's that much better, but you're seeing young people that are physically able to do some things that I guess going back in time they couldn't do.
I look at infielders, particularly the diving plays they make, stopping line drives and hard ground balls. It doesn't seem like we saw as much of that in the old days, where the guy was actually, you know, airborne like a soccer goalkeeper making a stop in the infield, was he?
Well, that's true. I think maybe the area I was referring to is fundamentally at times you see players not being as good as it seems like a few years ago, but of course they're rushing players now. But I guess athletically you probably have a very good point that there are some players that are a little more spectacular now.
But the fans are still coming out. They're still buying tickets and still buying souvenir items, which seems to have become a big part of the sports world.
Well, I'm involved in that, so I'm involved not only in the sale of our regular souvenirs, hats, T-shirts, and of course we sell sporting cards, and we've done well with autographs. That's something I've been an autograph collector for years, not only baseball but other sports. And we've carried that on in the ballpark, and that's I think has improved our general souvenirs too. So we've done very well with souvenirs, obviously.
Alan, that's something we might touch on in soccer, the player card. I've not seen a great deal of those in soccer. Is that something we might expect to see in years ahead?
I think so, and I think that they have tried to do it in the past, and every now and again, Bob, people will come to me and show me an old card of myself or old players that I've either coached or played with, and it's definitely a phenomenon in the other sports, and I think soccer would be well advised to jump on that bandwagon, because, you know, for me, sports teams are individually superstar driven rather than the team winning per se. You know, I just feel that in soccer we have the potential to have some real superstars in our own backyard here. Jason Dunn, for instance, is going to be a big-time player. He's out of Seattle Pacific University. Marcus Hanneman and Dustin Hudock, two of our goalkeepers, are clearly, in my opinion, and other people's opinions around the country, the two best young goalkeepers in America, and I think that they've got great futures. So we're trying to produce individual stars, and I think the sports card helps the young people associate better with players, and that's great.
All right, now where do you stand as far as a major league is concerned? You're in the American Professional Soccer League now. It's a fairly new organization. The folks at World Cup are talking about a major soccer league of some sort starting next year to try and bring soccer along in the United States. Where do you stand with the Sounders in regard to that? Are you going to be part of that? Do you have to sort of knock on the door to get in? Where does it all go?
Well, first of all, Major League Soccer does not have a schedule. It doesn't have a stadium. It doesn't have a single player signed under contract yet. Seattle Sounders have 25 professional players signed up through 94 and 95 and first right of refusal in 1996. We are playing. Major League Soccer is not at the moment, and I think it's just hopes and dreams. And I've got great respect for the people who are ambitious with trying to make soccer bigger and better. But at the end of the day, Bob, it's going to come down to players, and there's definitely confusion in the marketplace, particularly here in Seattle, where they are trying to bring Major League Soccer into Seattle. It's confused the marketplace. We think that the soccer fans should get behind what we're trying to do with our local ownership, and our mandate is should we make a profit, it will be plowed back into the community. If we do lose money, we will give 2% of our revenues to youth soccer charities, etc., etc. So I think that we're in the business for all the right reasons. We are growing. We feel we're the best league in America right now. We feel we have wonderful players. And Major League Soccer, I'll address Major League Soccer when they have a schedule and they sign some players and they make more significant announcements than they've made so far, quite frankly. And I'm a soccer man, and I just think the issue is about players at the end of the day.
All right. Ron Zolo, Alan talks about plowing profits back into the community. Obviously, the Tacoma Tigers do that with the community fund. Do you find that the changes at the Tacoma Tigers, there was a change of ownership several years back, the changes have brought about a completely new look to the Tiger organization? Are you just building on what was there?
I think building on what was there is probably a good way to describe it. Having been there with the previous ownership, we were always successful, but I think that we had reached a point we needed improvements at the stadium, and new ownership came along, and they've done those things. New scoreboard, new ticket building, new concession facilities. Those were things that were going to have to be done, and the new owners, I should say, George and Sue Foster, have come along and done those things. So it's been good for a person that's been there. I love baseball, but it's nice to see some new things there, and of course the brand new scoreboard is something that really impressed me. I've been there so long, after a while, even the improvements, you look at them and say that's nice, but that really impressed me. We got that huge scoreboard, and looks very good. So that was, I think, a really another positive area.
All right, now what about the future of baseball at the AAA level, which of course is the Tacoma Tigers, the Pacific Coast League. Major League Baseball, of course, has been, the strike thing has been going on and off and on and off. There's even talk that a strike could carry through 1995, wipe out the Major League season. Any inkling at all what happens to minor league baseball, the Tacoma Tigers, if there's a Major League strike through 1995?
That'll be a very interesting question. It is an interesting question, I should say, but I don't know if I can really answer that, Bob. I think it's maybe at least 50-50. In the past, when they had talked about it, I think around 3 years ago or so, they obviously were going to play during the season. Our season wouldn't be affected, but we never really talked about the following season. One of the problems, if they were to do that, what happens to all those young players that are in the minor leagues? They're going to have to look for other employment. It's going to hurt their futures. I would almost have a feeling that they might play minor league baseball the next year, but that's just a feeling.
So the development programs could continue even though there is some cost to them?
Well, the costs are not that astronomical for the major league people. At least you'd hope they wouldn't think that way. And looking at what would happen if they didn't have a minor league development program, it would really set them back. So it would be an interesting situation, which I hope doesn't happen. I'm very certain.
One of those bridges we hope we never have to cross.
Definitely not.
Alan, facilities in the Pacific Northwest, whether at your level now, at the major soccer league level where they talk about specific type of facilities, how are we, and particularly here in Tacoma, how is it playing here?
I think that we have a great relationship with Jay Green and all the people at the Tacoma Dome. They've made it very easy for us to put on a great game of soccer with great facilities in the Tacoma Dome. I think for soccer it seats about 15,000. The seats are right on top of the field. We've got good dimensions. We've had a few games in the Tacoma Dome so far. The fans have loved every minute of it and will enjoy more and more of it as the season goes along. But I think in the Northwest we do need a soccer-specific stadium, one which would seat 15 to 20,000 people, soccer only, no running track, outdoor, grass stadium. Grass is a big issue. And I think if around the country we could start getting some stadiums where we could have 15 to 20 to 30,000 fan base, quite frankly, I think we would never turn back again. Soccer, for me, is a growing sport. It's the participation level is very, very high, and I think that if we could get a soccer-specific stadium, I think all of our problems would be over.
Alan, looking at soccer stadiums, I guess the World Cup has given us an idea why you don't want to play on artificial surface with all the slide tackles. Yeah. What happened? We had a lot of games, a lot of teams that played on artificial surface in the old NASL and in the major indoor soccer league as well. What happened to those poor guys trying to slide tackle on artificial turf?
Well, I'll tell you, when a player first came to this country and had never played on AstroTurf before, all the players used to wait around for this guy to go into a sliding tackle. And of course everybody started laughing because you'd get a great big cherry at the top of your thigh here. Sliding tackle isn't, well, having said that, they now wear all these undershorts which stop that making you bleed and all that kind of stuff. But AstroTurf does get beat up, but I think that AstroTurf is also a good surface to play on if you are a very talented player. And I think when we played in the Kingdom and Memorial Stadium in the past for the Sounders, I think the fans loved it and the players loved it too, and I think that we've got to recreate those days again. So, you know, happy days for the Seattle Sounders right now and happy days for the soccer fans, and our future looks real bright. Our ownership is very solid, very committed to local players and making things get better and better, very committed to the community. We have 10 full-time people in our front office now, all doing a good job. And I think that the future is very bright, but it would be pushed home completely if we could get some of the money that always seems available for all the other sports to be pushed into soccer. And I feel that all the soccer people, the fans, have to do is start to move politically, and I think we'll get what we want in the end because we deserve it. It's not something we're asking for that we don't deserve. Soccer is now, and I think that soccer is very much wanted here. We can play year-round, which is a big benefit over some of the other cities around this country, but now is the time for soccer off the back of a wonderful World Cup.
Ron Solo, future of baseball in Tacoma, of course, I think very bright from the operational standpoint, the fan standpoint. But what about the working agreement? Oakland now for a long, long time. A lot of folks here say, wouldn't it make more sense to be tied up with the Seattle Mariners since they're so close? Is that a possibility? Has it been talked about?
Well, anything's possible. Our agreement won't be up until September, and we can't really get into that because that's you can get involved with the tampering situation. I really don't know. I don't have knowledge one way or the other. There would be some good advantages being involved with Seattle. I see also some negatives. So it's something that at this point I couldn't tell you one way or the other.
Now you say your agreement with Oakland won't be up until September. Does it have to be one of those things where Seattle's also would have to be up with Calgary so you could try to put something together if that were to happen?
I would think that's a situation. I know in our case we can not talk to Seattle or any other, for that matter, any other major league team until our agreement is up, and that would be the same situation with Seattle and Calgary. I think there's probably be the same time period.
Your facility at Cheney Stadium, I think, has long been considered one of the best playing fields in minor league baseball. You've got an excellent ground crew out there. You seem to get great cooperation.
Well, I think our stadium has a lot to do with our success. Despite growth in seating and things like we've talked about, scoreboards or whatever, there's still that playing field that has, to me, been pretty much the same since I've been here, since 1972. And you go out there, and if you're a baseball fan, you see the real thing. I don't like artificial surface, especially in baseball. I have a hard time watching a game in the Kingdome, and you're out there, especially when the weather's good. It's a heck of a place to be. Real grass, the dirt, it feels like baseball, whereas you go to an indoor facility, it just doesn't have that kind of a flavor to me.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation with us in Tacoma Sports Scene. We hope that we get to do this again because of success and continuing operations. Alan Hinton, the President General Manager of the Seattle Sounders soccer team, and Ron Zolo, Assistant General Manager of the Tacoma Tigers, have been with us on this segment of Tacoma Sports Scene. Again, we'd like to invite both of these gentlemen back to report later on in the future on how things are going in their particular sports. And Tacoma Sports Scene would like to invite you to stay with us because we'll be right back after this timeout. Welcome back to Tacoma Sports Scene. We continue now by bringing aboard John Drasel. He is one of the executives of the Seattle Supersonics. He works in administrative and such things as that, business areas of the Seattle Supersonics. John, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you with us. And also along is John Crowley, fairly new to our community, but a gentleman who has a very important role because he is one of the top executives at the Tacoma Dome and has to do with the operation of that. John, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, obviously, we're not going to talk about kicking balls around or shooting at baskets and things like that from the athlete standpoint right now. We're going to talk about the business end of sports here in the Tacoma area. And the Seattle Supersonics are going to become a very big part of that because in the coming basketball season, they will play their games at the Tacoma Dome. And I guess, John Drasel, the best place to start is how and why did that all come about?
That's good. That's a good question. Recapping it, when you look back, boy, we knew we were going to be tearing down the Coliseum a long time ago, and we needed a place to play. And I think the first thing we did is we went and talked to the team, the coaches, and said, what makes the most sense basketball-wise for you to maintain the competitive home court advantage? And the overwhelming and unanimous decision was we need to play in one place. That was it. And that's how it all started. And with that quest, we contacted the only two viable organizations or arenas that we could play in, and that was the Kingdome and the Tacoma Dome. And the Tacoma Dome was the winner. They worked the hardest to show us that they could house every home game and playoff game, and the two of us got together countless times working out the schedule until now, voila, it was done. And the Kingdome was simply too popular, I guess, to be able to work with us. So. The Tacoma Dome was the answer, and we are ecstatic about coming here next year. This is a very good decision for our franchise.
John Crowley, in your post as the Assistant Director of the Tacoma Dome. Good news for you for the dome operation in Tacoma as well?
Oh yeah, we're very excited. Coming in just on the embryonic stages of negotiating a contract with the Seattle Supersonics was quite an experience. We're very excited about having them come, and it is big business for us as well as for the whole city of Tacoma.
What is your background? Where did you come from? What sort of area had you worked in before?
I've worked in the facility management field for about 10 years in 5 arenas throughout the country, and I transferred from place to place working for a Fortune 500 company, and this is the first time I've worked for a municipality, and I come with a wealth of knowledge on how to run facilities, and we're really excited.
John Drasel, how did you get into the world of sports? I won't ask you if you would do it again, because I think everybody gets hooked, whether they, you know, even with all the problems, but how did you first get started?
I don't know. I never once in going through a school to even think about working for a professional franchise. When in my summers during college at the University of Washington, I used to be a maintenance guy for the billboard company in Seattle that was owned by Barry Ackerley. After college, I went back and got an MBA someplace, and then I ended up going to San Francisco working at a job. And the Ackerleys remembered me for whatever reason. It was a good relationship at the time, and they offered me a job. I interviewed with Lenny Wilkins at the time. Came up to Seattle, and they finally offered me a job in ticket sales 8.5, almost 9 years ago, in the mid '80s. And I got the job, moved my bags up here, and stayed ever since. And so I'm almost 9 years into this thing, and now I'm making decisions like Tacoma domes and new buildings and suites and all kinds of stuff like that. I never thought I'd be here, but here I am.
Well, there are a lot of things there to consider. John Crowley, you're in Tacoma now, and you're now bringing in a major league operation, a team to play in your dome, a lot of basketball games. Is this the biggest single move you've ever been involved in building operation? Well,
I think so. Anytime you can solidify a deal to bring an NBA caliber of a team into your facility, it's a big thing, and it's a multi-million-dollar deal. And it's great to be a part of such a big happening.
I want to take both the good and the bad on both sides of this. John Drasel, first of all, what was the best part of the Tacoma package? Was it the fact they could take all your games? Was that the #1 thing on your list?
Absolutely. You know, playing consistency is key. When you have, you know, over 10,000 season ticket people, you've got sponsorships, you have scoreboard issues and all types of things. And you have a group of players that really needs a home court advantage. You really want to play in one place as opposed to moving them all over town. You know, this week we're going here. The fans got to remember, geez, we're in the Kingdom today. What time's that game start? All the consistency gets thrown out, and it's very, very difficult. So that's the biggest reason we're coming down here is that consistency factor. Then there's all kinds of great things that happen, you know, after the basics, and I could go into those later or now.
All right, let's hold them just for a minute, because I want to go back to the Tacoma Dome side of this. What was the #1 plus when they walked in and said we'd like to play 40-some basketball games in your building? What was the first reaction? Was it positive immediately, or were there a lot of questions to be answered first?
Well, it was positive immediately. You fill 41 dates in your building, and that's the reason we're there. The revenue stream is a very, very big plus, but at the same time, the other things that it helps out, our advertisers all of a sudden became more valuable. Our concessionaires obviously were very, very pleased because they now have the opportunity to sell more product. So it's a win-win for the Dome, and that's initially how we perceived it, yes.
All right, but I won't be Pollyanna and suppose that there were no negatives, no questions that came up. From the Tacoma Dome side first, what was the biggest negative? What was the biggest roadblock where you said, well, now wait a minute, maybe we should take a longer look at this?
Well, we had 2 main concerns, really. One, the events that we had in the building at the time. We wanted to take care of the clients that we have been servicing over the years. And then on the other end of this spectrum is our advertisers. The Sonics bring in their group of advertisers. We have our own. We worked very hard together to make all of our advertisers happy and appease their concerns. And everybody came together to make it work. So it ended up working out fine.
John Drexel, from the Supersonic side, once you said, hey, here's a place that'll take 41 of our dates, we've got consistency and all of this, what were the negatives from your side that you had to put aside?
I personally didn't feel there were any negatives. I think the biggest negative that we face when we talk to fans is the travel time, and that's really it. The facility itself, we're fine with. The Coliseum, the old Coliseum, it's at the dump. It's gone, you know, so that's not, we don't even look back. So for a facility, it's great. Travel time down I-5 during rush hour traffic seems to be the biggest objection. At the same time, if you go around the rest of the league and you look at, you know, the Detroit Pistons in Auburn Hills, they don't play in downtown Detroit. They're quite a ways away. If you want to go see a game in the Boston Garden, it's quite a ways away from a lot of places in Boston. Same with New York. So the rest of the team, Richfield, Ohio, it's not in Cleveland, you know. I mean, it's
almost not in Ohio. It's far out.
It's out of there. So this is really nothing new for the rest of the fans around the country. But for us, it's like, my goodness, it's I-5. What are we going to do? And fortunately, and we were worried about that a little bit from a fan's perspective, but fortunately, our renewal rate's better than last year. We sold more tickets than last year. We have a lot of people down in this area that have purchased tickets, and we shouldn't have a problem. It's just a necessary thing we have. It's for 1 year, and we got to live with it. And I think everybody accepts that.
Will it affect your starting time? For example, would you start later to let the fans get there, or earlier so they could get home? What did you do?
We asked them. We sent a poll out to everybody we have, over 10,000, and we came, the majority said that they'd rather have the time to be the same as it was the year before, which was at 7 o'clock, a 7 o'clock start time. So we're still in the process of finalizing the schedule and the times with the league, but my sense is that's when it'll be, because that's what the fans want.
John Crowley, tell me what sort of facility the Tacoma Dome will be for professional basketball. How many seats? What configuration will you work in? I know fans are familiar perhaps with the state high school tournament where you've got 2 basketball courts in there. I don't anticipate anything like that, do I?
No, we're going to base the seating capacity at just over 16,000, which we've worked very closely with the Sonics on. The facility itself will be set up in such a way where it's more of a bowl effect. We're bringing seats in closer to the ends of the court to give it more of a close home court feel. The dome itself, we're under a vicious renovation cycle right now to bring all the detail up to the standards of the NBA. We want the public who's coming to the Dome, for many of which for the first time, to see the best that the Dome has to offer. So we're cleaning and painting and renovating the concessions operation. And we just renovated the basketball court with the help of the Sonics, and we're very happy, and we're going to show our best.
Now, I know one of the things the Sonics want in the renovation of their building in Seattle is the private suites, the boxes. Anything of that type available in the Tacoma Dome, or are they going to have to wait another year to get into those?
Unfortunately not. Our facility was built as a stadium first, an arena second, and we just have to deal with what we've got. But in this time, or this day and age of the big money of the NBA, you know, you've got to have those suites, and I think they're doing the right thing and building a new facility with those accommodations.
John Drexel, as you come into the Tacoma Dome and we talk about moving people, do you find that your season ticket renewals are more south, the Federal Way, the SeaTac area, and then new purchases in Tacoma to keep the numbers the same? Or are you getting people from all over, the Bellevues, the Linwoods, and places farther away?
The renewals are from the prior year, which are coming in, so that's from all over the place. The new tickets that we're selling for next year, there's almost 1,000 new tickets that have been sold in the Tacoma specific area.
Will those protect, the tickets bought this year, will those protect people for buying tickets the following year then when you go back to the Coliseum?
Will that protect them? They will be able to be in line before anybody else who purchases after them for the next year. So anybody in Tacoma who wants to continue to be a Sonic season ticket holder and go to Seattle in the new building will be in line before anybody who buys after them for the next year. So
I
they'll
know
be
at one
protected
time
that
there
way.
was some talk about possibly the Supersonics playing beyond the coming season, that perhaps into the following
possible.
season. Is that still a possibility?
That's weather provided. If it's a bad winter and the building is late being finished, I guess I can't stress enough how people talk about the Coliseum being a renovation, and I've been through it with the hard hats. It's not a renovation. It's gone. I mean, the only thing that's left is a small little roof, and that's completely opened up. And now they're going to dig down about 35 feet. So this thing isn't just a paint job, which means if there's bad weather, we're going to be delayed, and if we are, then we'll start the 95-96 season in Tacoma.
John Crowley, are you at the Tacoma Dome prepared for that, just in case?
We're excited. We're ready to place a spotted owl in the rafters up there in Seattle to delay it, but hopefully they can be on track and be in their new building in 95. But if it's not available and it's not ready to go, we're ready to accept them gladly.
Just very briefly, what was the reaction of anybody who had to be moved, people who were affected? Have they handled it well? Have they accepted that this is a golden opportunity for Tacoma?
I think pretty much everyone has. We tried to move people just to different dates and not blow their event, you know, out of the building. There were a couple of events that we just could not accommodate, and the promoters of those events gladly moved their event, and they'll be remembered and taken care of in the following years.
John Drasel, we've heard so much about transportation of fans and accommodation of fans coming some distance to games in the Tacoma Dome. Seattle Supersonics involved in any of these particular things, like the discussed high-speed train and bus rides and that sort of thing?
High-speed trains. I don't know about the high-speed trains, but the train has definitely been in a discussion with us. King County is looking into doing a train from King Street Station in Seattle to the Tacoma Dome, which would be about a block or 2 blocks away from the Tacoma Dome itself. And we are facilitating in the marketing of that. In other words, it would be a King County project. Really, their focus is to see if the community would lighten up to a light rail system. And they want to see if that would work before it goes to vote. And this is a great test market for them. We help them out by marketing to our season ticket holders the fact that there's a train, how much would you pay for it, a lot of market research, that sort of thing. And then once it's, if and when it's done, we would help make that train ride really fun. We do things like, you know, put a band on one of them, you know, blah, 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 that sort of thing to really make it a fun experience.
You might find the fans wouldn't want a high-speed train. They might want to spend more time on the train.
Well, it'd be 60 minutes, I think. It's 1 hour one way, and it would be a round-trip ticket. You'd probably be able to park in the, your ticket would include parking in the Kingdom, something like that. And it would be a train, there'd be 2 trains, one right after the next, maybe 20 or 25 minutes difference, where it's 1,000 person for each train, so it'd be 2,000 people.
Sounds like an interesting way to move people.
Not official yet, though.
Not official yet.
No.
John Crowley, could you make use of that perhaps for events in the Dome like concerts and things other than the Seattle Supersonics?
Sure. I mean, we were taking a look at that. Depending on how well it goes, we only have 3,000 parking spaces at the Dome, and we seat 20,000 people. So we're always looking for other ways of accommodating those type of people and their parking needs. And I mean, outside the Sonics, our concerts and other activity, 65% of our ticket holders come from the Seattle area. So we do need to accommodate them, and we're going to consider every option.
John Drasel, there's been talk about changing the name of the basketball club, dropping Super and so forth. Will you, in the coming season, be the Tacoma Supersonics, the Seattle Supersonics, the SeaTac Supersonics? What do you have in mind?
The first thing that everyone has to understand is the Sonics, we own our logo, we own our name, but we lease our name to the NBA, so they have all the rights to our name. We can't do anything unless the league says so. And the league isn't going to change the name from Seattle Supersonics. What we have done in the last couple months is we've allowed, the NBA has allowed us to use Sonics if we want, instead of having to couple Supersonics with it. It's just for logo purposes. Sometimes the word Supersonic gets a little long, and we can't fit it into certain things we're doing with clothing, etc. That's all. So the name will stay the same. It'll be the Seattle Supersonics. It's licensed by the NBA. We own it, but they get to do what they want with it, and they're not going to change it.
And I guess anywhere we live in the Puget Sound area, we can call it our basketball team, and everybody will be happy.
That's true. I mean, next year it's going to be the Seattle Supersonics in Tacoma, and every time you see an ESPN highlight, it's going to be, let's take you to the Tacoma Dome, and whoop, you're there, and instead of the Seattle Coliseum, and that just, you know, magnifies from show to show. It's going to be Tacoma Dome.
Gentlemen, have a great season. John Drasel from the Seattle Supersonics, John Crowley from the Tacoma Dome, working as a partnership now, and we're certainly glad that you were able to stop by and visit with us as a tandem here on Tacoma Sports Scene, and I'll be back with more right after this timeout. Our Tacoma sports scene continues now as we talk about some of the things that are going on in Tacoma, the facilities and the activities in the city, and some things that you might be very, very interested in. And we'll talk to three gentlemen during this time. John Crowley returns. He, of course, is the assistant director at the Tacoma Dome. Tacoma Sports Commission representative is Mike Shields, and Mark Blau is here representing the Tacoma Sports Museum. So, gentlemen, let's get at it. John Crowley, you've been with us in a previous segment, so let's talk about the Tacoma Dome and its involvement in local sports. Aside from things major like the Seattle Supersonics, how are you available for other sports? What type of sports can you encompass?
Well, we try to be available for a wide variety of sports activities. Naturally, we want to host as many as possible. Basketball, hockey, soccer, any number of things, and it all comes down to dates, and if we've got the dates available, you know, we try to make the activity happen.
Mike Shields from the Tacoma Sports Commission, I suppose, maybe first things first, what exactly is the Sports Commission and who is the Sports Commission?
Sure. The Sports Commission initiated business, so to speak, in 1992, and we came on board as a partnership between the City of Tacoma and Pierce County, and our objective is to attract major amateur sporting events to the area.
When you say amateur, you'd include collegiate sports, high school sports, all of that type of thing?
Certainly. It's a very wide range of events, anything from maybe a junior league soccer tournament all the way up to the NCAA events that are available for bid.
Mark Blau, you represent the Tacoma Sports Museum. Is that up and operating and running full speed right now?
Well, we're scheduled to open up later on this fall, and it's been an exciting process over the last 3 years in gearing up for it.
What are you doing right now in gearing up? Are you trying to acquire exhibits and items?
Right now we're just in the last stages of installing all the displays. We have approximately 22 display cases that need to be outfitted with all of the memorabilia, and there's a lot of work and a lot of detail, attention to do it and do it right, and so that's what we're doing right now.
And where will you specifically put this?
Well, the Sports Museum is located at the Tacoma Dome. We built a separate 1,300 square foot building. It's out in front, in between the lower level entrance to the Dome and the Convention Center. So excellent visibility from the front of the Dome. We're really excited about the people that'll be able to come and enjoy it.
John Crowley, from the Dome management standpoint, is this a plus for you to have the Tacoma Pierce County Sports Hall of Fame?
Well, sure, it's a plus. We're always looking for things for people that come to the Dome to enjoy, and this provides just another thing for our patrons to do.
Museum pieces coming in. Are you finding people are coming to your office and saying, here's something that you have to turn over to Mark?
Not yet. I believe they just bring them to Mark.
Right now, we're getting a variety of calls from people that are starting to hear a little bit about the museum. There's been a little bit of publicity about it locally. We've spent a lot of time in getting the word out. I've spent a lot of time in contacting the various athletes, both in the community and those that have been here and have since moved out. And every other day it seems like I'm getting a phone call, hey, I've got this, I've got that. And we're trying to be selective because we want a wide variety of items to be displayed properly.
I know you have a couple of items, the type of thing that can go into the museum. Can you show us a couple of them? I know some of the items are pertaining to baseball, and I guess kind of covering the span of professional baseball in Tacoma, aren't they?
That's right. The whole intent of the museum was to recreate the history of all the sports in Tacoma, because Tacoma has such a rich tradition of sports. So what I brought, yes, was primarily baseball. This is a jersey that was worn by Jose Canseco when he played here in Tacoma.
That's a big jersey then.
It is a good sized jersey, and it's not his typical number 33 either. This jersey here is a 1949 Tacoma Tigers jersey. It was worn when they participated in the old Western International League.
That, of course, is a road jersey. I recognize that from my days broadcasting in that league, and I used to see Tacoma when they were on the road, so that's a road jersey.
This jersey here is Neil Megson's jersey when he wore, I believe this was from the last season with the Tacoma Stars. And then the last jersey that I brought along is Mike Oliphant's jersey when he played with the Cleveland Browns. Of course, Mike had a nice career at the University of Puget Sound. So we have a number of jerseys in the museum that will be on display. Championship rings, bats, balls, footballs, a lot of photos. Have some real interesting artifacts from the old soapbox derby races here in Tacoma, and just about every sport you could imagine will be represented.
Sounds like it'll be an interesting display to walk through and study.
It really will.
And now, Mike Shields, the Tacoma Sports Commission, you probably will be providing some activities that ultimately will wind up in the museum down the road, won't you, if you bring in the things you're seeking?
Well, we hope so. I mean, you can see from Mark's collection that Tacoma and Pierce County really does have a rich tradition in not only amateur but professional sports, and we hope to be able to provide an ongoing set of, or a series of events that will build upon that tradition. And what we did initially was we focused on high school and college events, and we've had the opportunity to assist in hosting several NAIA national championships. We had the women's soccer championships here in 1992. This past year we had the NAIA swimming and diving championships, co-hosted by UPS and PLU. And then, as you know, we've had a number of high school state championships that have taken place in the county over the years, and we've tried to build on that and add to that inventory of events.
It sounds simple. You go out and acquire a championship event, but I don't think it's quite that easy, is it? What's the procedure? Where do you start, and how much work is involved?
Well, it really is a matter of matching what you have to offer to the event's needs. And in Tacoma and Pierce County's case, we do have some nice venues. John over at the Dome offers a great world-class venue for us to make a part of bids that we're going after. And Mark's the representative of the Pierce County Parks Department, and he operates Sprinker Recreation Center, which is also a facility that we've used on several bids. And so the first thing I think we need to look at is what we have to offer in return for what they're looking to do in Tacoma and Pierce County. The second thing we need to look at is sponsorships. And when it comes to amateur sports, the number one thing that most organizations are going to need is some dollars to get the event rolling. And so it's real important that we tap into the corporate community in our area and seek some assistance in bringing those events to Tacoma and Pierce County.
Not only, I suppose, from the sponsorship point of view, but also the operational point of view for the commission, so that you can get people to the places where the presentations must be made.
Exactly. It's a situation, Bob, where what we've done is we've set up what we call our Amateur Athletics Fund, and we're going to develop a membership out of that and use that fund to develop event bids, sponsorships, and then to assist area amateur athletes that will be carrying the banner of Tacoma and Pierce County as they attend national championship events.
Does it have to be an event that would of necessity involve Tacoma as a participant? In other words, an NAIA school event or a high school event? Or could you go after something larger than just local scope, a national event that, an example, the 1AA football that was here a number of years ago?
Most definitely. In fact, I've had several conversations with John about the possibility of bidding on events such as the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Tacoma's been lucky enough to host the women's Final Four in back-to-back years in the 80s. We hosted the 1987 U.S. Figure Skating Championships. We were recently a finalist to host that event again in 1996. There's a myriad of opportunities out there. It's just a matter of, as I said earlier, matching what we have to offer to the event's needs. And I don't think that we have eliminated any event from that listing at all. I think we'd be willing to go after most any event that's available.
John, from the Dome standpoint, do you have a kind of a standard presentation that they can take with them no matter what the event is, maybe just change the page for the arena arrangement?
Not really. We try to form fit whatever we do with whatever's being bid. The sooner we can get at it, the better. If we're working on something now for 3 and 4 years down the road, we have a much better shot, especially when it comes to dates, being able to block out a time frame. But pretty much the proposals and the letters that go out are from scratch.
I suppose you're one of their early contacts, and they've got to come and say, we've got this specific set of dates in mind. Can we use those specific dates?
That's correct. If we don't have the dates available, there's no business, you know, putting a bid together. So we come on board very quickly.
Mike, when you go to somebody like the NAIA, for example, are they so date specific that you have to work within their framework, or can you go and say, well, we can't get you February 4th through 11th, but we can get you February 11th through the 18th?
Well, I think I have a pretty good example of that. Is recently we were a finalist to host the NAIA World Series, and we were lucky enough to have the Tacoma Tigers support for that bid. And they worked very closely with us in developing the proposal, and part of that was setting aside dates. And as you know, Bob, they have to go to the Pacific Coast League and request specific dates be set aside for that event. But typically the NAIA will say, these are the dates we need, what can you do to accommodate us? And we were lucky enough with the affiliation with the Tigers that we were able to come up with the exact dates that they needed.
Good. Mark Blau, I kind of jokingly touched on the idea that some of the folks that they're bringing in will wind up in your museum. But what about a list of events? They bring in major events. Are those going to be perhaps featured in one of your displays, that these are the major things that have happened in Tacoma facilities?
Well, we are going to touch upon on the facilities. There's really 3 parts to the museum. One are the displays themselves. Secondly, we're developing a 15-minute video documentary which will cover all the sports and give a flavor for what the museum is all about. And within that, we've gathered footage from about 60 different events, accomplishments by local athletes that we're going to tie into that. And that'll give us a chance to show, for instance, participation by Brian Boitano and Debbie Thomas in the National Figure Skating Championships that were here, or footage from the Goodwill Games, because those were important events in Tacoma sports history. And of course, then the third part is we plan to publish a commemorative book on the history of sports, complete with a lot of photos, because photos tell such a great story. So we're working with a lot of the past and present sports writers and freelance writers in Tacoma and putting those sports histories together.
I suppose something like the Goodwill Games world scope that it was could probably almost be a single item of its own, couldn't it?
It very well could. And for instance, we were able to gather a USA baseball jersey, a jersey from Japan, some caps, a ball signed by the Cuban team, the Japanese team, a hockey stick, you know, from the USA team. The challenge is, where do we put it all? We have 1,300 square feet, 2 levels, and there are so many things and so many sports to depict that we've had to make some difficult decisions. So not everything that we've gathered will be displayed, but we have the opportunity to come in and do some rotating displays, and you know, again, with the video documentary and with the book, we'll be able to depict some memorabilia in that way also.
Mike, anything of the scope of the Goodwill Games on the horizon that we can, you know, muscle up and go after now?
Actually, I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag here, John, but we are working on a couple of events that would be of that same magnitude, one of which is the 1997 U.S. Olympic Festival. And it's an Olympic-style event that takes place on non-Olympic years, and we're putting together a bid along with the many venues in our area, together with Bob Walsh and Associates out of Seattle and the Seattle-King County Sports and Events Council. So that's one event of that magnitude that we're soliciting or attempting to attract. Another is the possibility of putting together some sort of a proposal for the 1998 World Figure Skating Championships. And there's a great deal of interest in Tacoma, as you know, in figure skating. Figure skating events do very well at the Dome, and so I think that would be something that we'd be interested in as well.
One I would ask about specifically, because we did it before successfully here, and that was the World Fast Pitch Softball Tournament. Is that a possibility again?
It sure is. In fact, I talked to Bob Christofferson out at Cheney Stadium recently, and that was one of the best events that they've ever hosted, according to Bob. And it was about 10 or 12 years ago, if memory serves correctly, and I think it's about time that we could put together a bid for something along those lines. With the Tigers now managing that facility to a certain extent, it makes it a lot easier because they come in as a co-promoter of the event, and that really strengthens our bid.
John Crowley, one problem we had, of course, one concern, it didn't turn out to be a problem. We were fortunate the last time we had it, and there was always the weather. Is the Dome usable for fast-pitch softball? I know it's not big enough for baseball, but could it go indoors in the event of bad weather?
I wish it could, but it's not. It's just not big enough.
But you can handle pretty much anything else, including outdoor soccer indoors.
That's correct. We can host a wide variety of events, but baseball and softball just can't happen.
Not those. All right. Well, anything else then, Mike? I guess you've got the availability of indoors just in case you need it.
Well, it's a great facility, and I think that's one thing I'd like to stress, Bob, is that we're really lucky in this area to have as many good facilities as we do have. And I think when people think about sporting events in Tacoma and Pierce County, they automatically think of the Dome and Cheney Stadium. But there are many other venues that we've utilized in the past. Sprinker is a good example, Lincoln Bowl, Spark Stadium out in Puyallup. There's a number of very good facilities that we could put in, maybe not world caliber events, but events that have a dramatic impact on the economy of this county. So we're excited about the venue inventory that we have here.
Do you have any kind of a study that, you know, sort of tells us the story of the economic benefits, the rollover of the money that comes in, how much people spend? Is that all available?
Well, I try to put a pencil to it myself, and I think everyone would agree that when you say economic impact estimate, it's truly an estimate. But I try to do what we call a room pickup report once a month. And I can tell you that based on the events that we hosted in Tacoma and Pierce County in March and April, the impact that we've estimated was about 1.5 million. And those are all smaller championship events, but nothing of the size of the Goodwill Games. And so there really are a myriad of events out there that people might not think of off the top of their head that really carry dramatic impact with them. So,
well, gentlemen, good luck in going and getting them and lining them up in the Tacoma Sports Museum and Hall of Fame. John Crowley from the Tacoma Dome, Mike Shields from the Sports Commission, Mark Blau from the Sports Museum, thank you very much for joining us on Tacoma Sports Scene. Hope we'll see a lot of you in the future with a lot more success stories. Good luck to all three of you. And thanks to you for joining us, because we've been presenting an opportunity to look at the Tacoma sports scene, past, present, and future, and I think it has a great future. There's no question about that. We thank everybody who appeared on the show, the folks who made this telecast possible to bring you some very valuable information. So until we get together again, this is Bob Robertson saying thanks for joining us, reminding you to always be a good sport always. So long.